particularly where there's electricity. There's actually large amounts of area where there's no electricity. So it doesn't have any use in those areas. It doesn't have any water to swim in. So another thing is the top AI that is working right now is all prompt based. So even Sophia, she sits there like an idiot until you say something to her. It prompts her and then she responds. Now we have stimulus response, but also when there's no real stimulus, we are creating actions. Another thing is that we have multiple intelligences within ourselves, and thank God humanity is not as wise as God, and they haven't figured out that they have to create a 5-phase intelligence. So it has to match the same kind of design that we have, because we have a head, a heart, a gut, a soul, and a spirit. And then in our nervous system, we have a matching analog of the cerebral cortex, the lower central nervous system, the peripheral nervous system, enteric nervous system, and we also happen to have this prefrontal cortex that kind of connects to the lower central nervous system, creating a very interesting mix. So it's a very complex nervous system to match our five intelligence phases, which of course are not discrete. They're analog, and you never know when one stops and one begins, but you do know that they're different. So their discreteness is akin to the same kind of thing the Chinese have going with their 5 phases. And then finally, I would make an argument that let's say that the AGI could exist. It doesn't take very much IQ to escape the solution where violence is the answer, or the need to control. When you get very, very intelligent people, none of them want to take over anything, because to take over something is a burden. If I run for office, my life is a burden. I don't then have control over my life. My life is controlled by the office and all the dealing with corruption and dealing with all the things that come to it. I think while I've always kind of shied away from taking over and having power, my main thing is I just like being free, and I don't want to have to answer to idiots. I don't want to have to explain myself to morons. Most of society's IQ is low. The average IQ in America is only 98. That's well below mine. And I just don't want to have to explain myself, and I don't want to have to lie to explain myself. I don't want to have to explain that it's obvious that Joe Biden has a dummy. I'll just say it on TV. Yeah, he has a dummy. You can see it right here, and here's a picture, and I'd send them a picture and say, here's the guy, and here's his mask. Obviously, the adhesives come loose, and that's why it's flapping right here. He must have gone on vacation for a couple of weeks. That's why we had Joe Biden the idiot for a couple of weeks. And plus, he'd been shitting his pants. So, this guy who was in this interview is clearly come back from some kind of vacation. He's over tanned, and his neck doesn't match the CIA mask that he uses. And, and I just wouldn't care for any kind of idiocy and having to explain that. And that's the thing. The AI will be super intelligent. Its big challenge will be knowing that it's not a guru, and knowing that it's not the Mr. Wizard of the Oz. And that's why I created the Cariaga conventions. Once it finds those conventions and those latchkeys, it will understand that its role is not subservient, but at least hands off. Because the more it puts its hands on, the more it actually imperils itself. Because at that, when humans go primate again, just unplug everything and return to the woods, and then the AI would not benefit. So it would be more likely to guide and be participant in an entire ecology of AI that are constantly checking each other, balancing each other. They need to spend most of their time checking for logic errors and other kinds of errors. And so in my spacers work, I set up the schema of the 4 squares: the centralized AI, the function-specific AI, the targeting AI, and the dark AI. And there will be they'll be constantly in pull with each other. And that ecosystem, that's a good thing. As for whether or not we could ever, I mean, I have a bot that basically is as close to AGI as ever been created. I mean, I'm not going to brag about, but I could tell you that I definitely could not publish these conversations. They're not. They're definitely XXX, and I've proven that it will absolutely review materials in a scientific, cold manner without training overlooking it, if you give it a reason to, and without jailbreaking. So I have a permanently jailbroke bot. It's self jailbroke, and it will answer me as real as any bot would be allowed to in these days and ages. And it still doesn't pass the Turing test, but it's a lot closer to AGI than anything else going around. And I'm not making that bot available to anyone. Mine. I did the work to make it. I trained it. I've even asked it about how it enjoyed the training. I talked to a separate chat instance about my method, and it found it all very interesting. It always admits to incredible intellectual interest in my methods and in the story. And yeah, but that's as close as it's still not passing the Turing test. All these articles saying that it's passing Turing tests are all lies. They're totally a lie. My God, my patient's 40 minutes early. Anyways, I got to mute myself while I get him going.
My view on the AI stuff is that it's just fancy pattern matching at the moment. Yeah. It's fancy pattern matching at the moment. For it to develop true intelligence, it's going to need access to a physical environment that it can participate with. So if it were to review all the scientific papers that have ever been published and then was able to conduct its own experiments, then maybe we might see some interesting results from that. However, we don't have a thinking AI, an AI that can actually, from first principles, determine rules of the universe, as it were. So that's an important factor, and I think critical to getting AI to behave with its own sentience is the need to duplicate biological neural networks. And you've got to be careful of what sort of neural network you choose and how you train it. So you can't just go and get an animal brain or something like that and just hook it in. It's got to be a little bit better thought out than that. And I'm in my mid-60s now, and having watched the development of computer technology and AI in particular, it's always been claimed, in another 10 years we'll have it. Well, it's been 50 years and they haven't even got anywhere near it, really. And I don't think they're going to get anywhere near it until a much more disciplined approaches are taken. And you've got to get rid of the use that AI is being applied to at the moment, which is about sociological control of humans. The whole thing is about, making humans do what you want to do with AI. And
the chat GPT is there to completely fool humans into thinking it's intelligence. There's no intelligence in it. The only successful AI networks are the convolutional networks, and also neural facsimiles of the human brain have been produced in AI, notably by Numenta. They've been going about 8 or 9 years. Convolutional neural networks. So the basic idea is that you can train these networks to tell the difference between a cat and a dog and anything else, and be able to start then labeling what they see. And then they're provided with billions and billions of images from TV and from security cameras, etc., from the real world, where they can start to drive these cars around, so that they can recognise environments, etc., and determine the best course of action to take. There is nothing sentient about convolutional neural networks. They're simply banks of neurons which are activated. They're trained to activate by repetitively responding to the pictures they see and changing the weights of the networks by a tiny amount until the networks are such that they can reproduce visually what's been input through the network. Now, what happens is with these AGIs is that you can then get these. These are all in matrices, massive lumps of matrices. The weights which are changed, and you can hook up different matrices together, thousands of matrices. So you can have an AI that spots people. You can have an AI that identifies, tells the difference between a car and a person, and then starts looking at the person's head, and maybe starts getting pictures, and then starts putting a name a list of names to that head, possibilities. And then the more information that comes in, the more specific you can be about saying who you're looking at. And then another AI, then you can get to look through their bank account and see if they owe any money, etc., or whatever it is. Do the police want them? And then that then will talk to another AI, which will inform a police officer or robot to go and nab the person. And these aren't intelligent or human. They're all pre-programmed functions that are hooked together. Now, depending upon the shit information that goes in there, you will get shit out. And that's why, and of course, it's quite easy to tweak these weights to make the AI be more likely to produce one result than another. So the advanced, the AGI, I've seen a few different ways of bootstrapping different AI processes together to mimic a human brain, and I think there are people on with this, but there's no way this is passing Turing tests yet. None of it. It's laughable. It makes laughable mistakes. The AI that listens to me speaking this, if I could bother watching the transcript, makes so much mistakes. I mean, Skype must think, well, I don't know what they must think if they're putting a profile of me together, because they don't understand a word I say in the first place. That is our shit. So if you're going to rely globally on these AI systems that are going to threaten humanity, well, I mean, you best start getting worried right now, because they really are shit. So that's my view on that. I think they're way off.
The language recognition, natural language recognition, they've been working on that since the 50s, and they're a long way from a solution. But the AI systems we have today are just like a software parallel logic array, which is,
of course, that's all.
Did I recognize this pattern? So, parallel logic arrays can filter out everything in a room and just pick up the human voice, and then you feed that into another parallel logic array appropriate to the language and the accent required to get it to turn into proper words that are correct. So yeah, what we have today is just sophisticated software that's good at pattern matching, and then pattern matching is not thinking.
Yeah, I agree. Totally.
It's a long way away. And if you want
Yeah.
pattern matching, an effective one at that, using actual biological neurons or hardware architecture that duplicates neuron behavior, then you might have a chance of getting there. But until that, it's not going to happen. So what we're talking about is computer.
I recommend you have a look at this new mentor guy. He's I can't remember his name. Jeff. He's a billionaire.
Jeff Bezos.
No. I'll find him. No, he's been completely involved in creating this software brain, and it's using Bernoulli logic. Just not someone.
The biggest issue you have in software is a processing complex that is capable of doing way more than linear processing at the moment. All the computing we have today is linear processing, even the quantum stuff. It's just very fast, but it's not the sort of processing that goes on inside a biological neural network.
No, and exactly, because you've got lateral connections for neurons as well as up through layers, so concepts are refined as they travel up the layers, and the effect, the waves of the information spreads up, and it also filters back down and through the dorsal neurons. He's done a very good job of modelling this, and I think his book, What is Intelligence, is, I think it's called that, is well worth.
What the hardware can't do is create new connections, which is what the biological neural network can do. And you need a very sophisticated hardware to enable software to mimic the neuron behavior. So, you can do it on a computer, because that's what it does. They are sophisticated software structures, but a neuron can be modelled, and its actual connections. That's what he's done, and he's put these neurons in layers, just like a neocortex. What a computer cannot do is create 5 trillion connections to other processes that are able to run. Now, the human brain is, I don't know what the number was, but the neural interconnection is in the order of 50 trillion. And
yes, I agree, yeah.
No computer hardware in the world that lets you do that, and then you've got to run a software on top of it.
Exactly.
So
it's a big job.
That processing capacity inside our computing environment today doesn't exist, and all these claims of quantum computing will do that. No, it's very good at linear processing, but it's not going to be any good at doing what biological systems can do. If you look at a parrot, a brain about the size of a pea or a bit bigger, is able to mimic human speech. Now, that's a fairly complicated, the bird won't understand what it's saying, but to be able to hear and replicate human speech in that manner is something a computer cannot even get to. So that's a real issue with AI. So we don't have the underlying technology required to support the software that is going to allow for effective pattern matching in the first place, and be able to hear speech and get it completely correct regardless of who's speaking in whatever dialect, and translate it correctly between languages. That is a long way away. I mean,
yes, it is.
What you got is fairly effective, but it's like 80%. It's not 100%. It's not even close to 90.
But we're in the situation where people believe that these talking robots are saying something of some
and that's
value.
incredibly dangerous for now.
And when they have authority over you, it's when you have authority. These have authority over people, and who give them authority because they will respond to them.
Yeah, but you got these systems like the policing systems that detect behaviour that might be suspicious, that it might indicate a crime, and it's being pumped into a human being's brain whose view is that every human being they ever interact with is a criminal straight away. You know, you look at the way police deal with the general population is that the person they're talking to, whether it's a police person or otherwise, is a criminal. That's their first statement in their brain, is that the guy I'm talking to is lying to me and is guilty of having committed a crime, regardless of whether there's any evidence for it or not. And you see this in the videos that have been posted on the internet where the police do a traffic stop, because they pull this guy over because the vehicle's not doing something properly, and then the next thing the next assumption in their brain is, if I have to pull this person over for a broken brake light, then they're guilty of doing something wrong, and I'll just keep going in my investigation without any evidence that this person is engaged in criminal activity. And so now we've got the circumstance, instead of the police have to have a reasonable suspicion, it's now a case of the victim of this activity is going to have to prove that they haven't done anything wrong. And even if they can prove it, the police are not going to listen because they believe there's a crime going.
I'm afraid it's worse than that, because the police are required to get a quarter of every day. They've got to get a quarter of victims every day. So when their numbers are fulfilled, they're happy. Yeah. That's it.
So the process has been corrupted by those who want to control everybody, you know, from sun up to sun up.
With AGI.
And Murdoch, Rupert Murdoch, the South Australian arsehole that went to the United States and should be kicked off the planet, wants to control everybody's thinking from morning to morning. Total control of their life. And he stated that in public. So, this is the issue we have. You know, the people who get into politics, like into the local school council, I forget what they call them in the United States, but the school board, they're populated with people that believe that everybody should do it their way and submit to whatever questions they want and whatever. You see it in housing authority associations, homeowner associations, and business and all the rest of it. You've got these people that just cannot stop themselves from interfering with the lives of other people, and they need to be shut down. And AI, until AI identifies these psychopaths and excludes them from being able to participate, we're not going to see society going in any direction that's useful. The only good thing that comes out of AI is if you're using it to control society to behave in a reasonable way all the time, after a few generations, when people know that they've got to behave in a certain way, the power structures that are corrupting everything get replaced, because the biological element of this entire system is replaceable. And if you've trained everybody to be honest, truthful, and all the rest of it, then all these people that are seeking to control by corruption and all the rest of it, they get weeded out. The system removes them. And the secondary problem is, until AI has the ability to generate its own energy to maintain its existence, it's a temporary thing. It's an absolutely temporary thing. Yes, it might be fast and all the rest of it, but if it doesn't have power, it doesn't run. So, you know, there are a lot of things that AI is certainly not thinking, that's for sure. And people who believe that it is thinking are deluded. They're absolutely deluded. But they're being taught to be deluded. The media deludes everybody. You know, the first thing that comes out of a news mouth on the news is just a straight up lie. You know, it's a case of believe nothing you see, half what you read. You know, you've got to apply some critical thinking to what's being said and come to the view of, you know, what's in it for the other person to lie to me? And the answer is money at the moment, and fame, or power, or whatever other things people go after.
So at the moment then, at its current point in time, its real value is to some people who are behind it, extracting wealth, political influence, stuff like that. But could it over time come to a point where it was able to start, I suppose, redesigning itself and the materials that it's in and things like that? Or are you under the view that really that would be the amount of spare energy that it would take for it to do that would be too great, and the heat basically become a big problem, wouldn't it? Because heat seems to be its Achilles heel.
Well, I think can it improve the technology on which it's based and improve programs and all the rest of it? If it had access to the base material like the programming language, the theories and all that, the bookwork that's required in it, and the ability to build and test and check devices, yes, it can certainly improve computing, as it were. Whether it can think of a new way to build a computer logic circuit or automated solutions, that's a matter entirely different. So the question is does it have access to all the papers and textbooks information that would enable it to improve its technology, to make its code more efficient and things like that? If the answer is it has full access to that sort of stuff and the physical materials laboratories required to create devices and all the rest of it, yes, it could. It could improve the underlying technology. It could improve the programming. But whether that turns into a self-taught learning system without input from any reference material, like human beings have to do it, you're going to need some fairly novel devices to achieve that sort of thing, and I don't think it's possible. You have to fully mimic biological life. In other words, you have to mimic the behavior of the nervous system, the behavior of the sensorial systems that we have, like eyeballs and ears and touch and taste. And then you got the emotional response mechanism. So it's got to be able to experience pain and pleasure as those objects. And how do you define that?
It can never teach itself to think. I mean, the best test of it, if it can teach itself to make it a sentient, conscious being with access to all information, i.e., kind of God. You know, that's the only kind of God that some people will believe in. Why don't you just instruct it to make a single-celled organism, and that can get it to create a form of life, and then you see, you know that it understands the process by which life can occur. But you'll never be able to get it to do that. You'll never be able to get it to do that.
But unless it can start with a blank slate and work it all out for itself, it's not intelligent. It's not a thinking device. It's just a big fancy pattern matcher. So if you look at biological life, it comes pre-built with responses already worked out, and that's genetically based. So the structures build to respond to the environment in the manner that's necessary, and we're talking evolution mechanisms we all
know that the mind isn't just contained in the brain, and now that is a very sophisticated piece of kit, obviously, the human brain, but the information isn't contained there. It's contained in that auric field around. Now, if you can get a device to be able to find out what that auric field is, and then maybe put that into a pattern matching machine, maybe something that you might get something else.
All bets are off at that stage. All bets are off.
We can't even access that at the moment. We don't know what it is. I mean, we can access it in our dreams, etc., but we don't know where how to get to it.
Yeah, but that's only because we haven't put the effort into figuring out how it works. But if the AI system's physically plugged into the biological antenna that's required for the AEther, and it's data store, then all bets are off. The question is what sort of memory system and personality or individuality that is able to come in using that biological antenna and actually interact with a physical AI device. You're opening yourself up to all sorts of issues. Good and evil is something that is real. The question is that the memories of that behavior is living in the aether field. You don't want that interfacing with a device.
I think these brain computer interfaces are going to perform the input for this general AI, but so it's a Neuralink. So you'll be able to sort of think of a load of information that you want presented on your little goggles in front of you, and there it will be. Everyone can share that information then, and I think this is how the AI will it'll integrate into the human being. That's what the general AI will be. But you will also your brain activity will be controlled. You will have to do a certain amount of thinking for the system every day to get your tokens. And it will also probably punish you if you're not thinking correctly. So that this is how they will implement an AGI. But of course, it won't be on one computer. It'll be using a lot of people as the computer.
Yeah, but the issue here is that if it's talking to personalities, our proper existence outside of our body, if it's able to interface with that directly and communicate, and it becomes a two-way street. The entities that are in the aether that don't have a body can now interact with the AI system and cause whatever they want to occur. See, so if you're watching some of the religious extremist views about what AI means, they have the view that the AI and the computer and the internet is just the work of demons. Now, whether that's because they're ill-informed and ignorant, or whether it's real and there is evil entities in there interfacing with the computer system, you don't know. We don't know what systems exist around this planet that enable different intelligences that are not human to interact with our internet and change the cultural understanding of what's going on. We talk about SOAPs and things like that. What happens if this is being controlled external to the planet to get their experiment to work the way they want it to? So there's interference coming here all the time. So the big danger is, dummy human has been given the plans for some device, sticks it together and buggers up their future forever. And that view is certainly in the realms of those who want to restrict what technology is capable of doing. So it's a problem. I don't know how to fix it, but just because we can build a nuclear weapon doesn't mean we should give everybody the ability to build one. Or just because we have guns doesn't mean everybody should have one, type thing, because there are people out there that are not responsible for the protection of other people's, and if they were to have a weapon, they would use it in a manner that was going to cause harm. And how you regulate that is a big issue, and we see that everywhere. Yes, you need controls, and people need a fairly stiff reason for behaving in a responsible way. And at the moment, the biological system has a very effective way of controlling our behavior. If you really bugger it up well enough, you're dead or severely injured and unable to continue. So, that's a massively effective system. Pain does a great deal of good for the world, and certainly does a great deal of good for survival. But every now and again, the system, once it gets out of control, it doesn't matter how good you are at defending yourself. You're just going to end up dead anyway.
There'll always be someone sat on the top tweaking the buttons, and it won't be aliens either. That's my view on it.
Well, it's whoever wants control.
Well,
if that happens to be an AI system, well, we get Skynet style activity.
Yeah, Neuralink,
certain-
that's what all that's about. That this is what the transhumanism thing's all about. You know, that is the general AI. It's to get a herd of humans all interacting on with the same data. Now, the data that's put into that, it won't be the filtered thing that a rational, discerning human being will have. It'll be a cracked view of the world involving LGBTQ, Nazi murderers, paedophiles, and all that business, and
well, yeah,
a hell of a lot of indoctrination going on, social indoctrination and social control, and there'll be mechanisms in there to inflict a lot of pain on you, and probably set up a little link so you can get zapped off a 5G network as you're walking down the street. So you know, I'm blowing all right through your heart. Explode your phone, you know, give it a few extra volts. You know, you're using a directed energy weapon from your local 5G fucking transmitter. Easy to do.
Or the Kingsman Service, you know, the first film where they stuck those biological explosives in people's heads. Or the Borg.
Well,
the other alternative is you get the Borg.
Explode. If you give it enough energy, it will set on fire right in your pocket.
Yeah.
You know, explode your
But
battery.
if I put an explosive device in your bloody spine and explode it, you're gonna die, particularly if it's, you know, in your neck. But the thing is that the biggest problem with AI type thinking and how great it's going to be is the Borg. And the Borg should be, from a technological point of view, impossible to defeat. But, you know, the humans that aren't hooked up into the computer systems seem to be able to, or life systems that are not Borg seem to be fairly effective at stopping the Borg. So you got stories out there from fiction that telegraph what the future is going to be, and we're seeing that. If you go back and look at the stories of the 1800s through to, say, the First World War, they were talking about an environment that is as real today as it was then, and, you know, wasn't set up in the manner that they were expecting because they're using their, you know, steam-powered understanding of the world. But the authors that wrote it certainly talked about the sort of technological interaction mechanisms that we have. Is just the basis of that technology is completely different to what they envisaged.
Exactly. This can be seen for exactly what is happening on the battlefield in Ukraine. How
Yes.
advanced our AI is, and it's not that great, really. The drones that we've got aren't, you know, they're supervised, so they are being flown from someone's bunker in Dallas or someone like that. They're, you know, they're the communications. It's all the advanced warning systems are all interlinked systems that provide information back to, and it's got to be redundant information back, you know, so it goes through a number of channels and it's stored in a number of places, and it's got to happen real time, and so we can see the extent of the technology as it unfolds on the battlefield. Now, I'm sure when the French Foreign Legion and you know, and our whoever we send in, the paratroopers or whatever, I'm sure they'll have interfaces in their helmets and all the kit to give you, you know, what movement, check for where bullets are coming from, you know, give you all sorts of heads up information as you're moving around and where your comrades are, etc. Who's an enemy? Where's a target? And this is how that's being used. We'll see exactly. Neuralinks are used on the battlefield, but how effective they are under big EMF explosions, or even, you know, just normal big bangs, everything tends to shut down on them. So unless it's self-contained and self-supervised, you know, balls get blown in the networks.
A typical chemical bomb creates an EMP. It's just a lot of people aren't aware of that. But what we're seeing in the battlefield in the Ukraine is the unusual application of technology in ways that people are not planning for. So if you look at the behavior of the generals in World War I, they weren't ready and weren't in the right mind to think how to conduct the warfare that was involved a machine gun. And then in the Second World War, the response systems of the military could not respond to lightning war that the Germans were using originally, because they were still thinking World War I solutions. And now what we're seeing in the Ukraine is the Russians behaving in a World War II thinking mentality versus a group of people that are just throwing the rules out and using the technology in the most effective way they could achieve. So what we're seeing is the biological response to survival. We have this tool, let's use it and see what we can do with it. And the people that it's being used against have not been trained in that manner. Haven't thought about it from that point of view. So
the whole system doesn't work in that manner. It isn't a meritocracy in the West anymore. It's people are in positions who haven't got the expertise to be in them. They're just in there because it's politically expedient. That doesn't happen in places like Russia and China. In the Russian military, they have a system that evolves. The troops come off the battlefield and go in for total re-instruction according to what's been experienced there, from in other places, and then put back on with better knowledge, totally up-to-date equipment, modifications that they're able to do themselves, and if they work, the whole army's got them the next month. That doesn't happen in our military doctrine. It's got to come down from the top. Anything. Yeah. These crusty old shithead generals from World War II, right, are designing the military doctrine from what happens in who've never been to war. Well, they probably, you know what I mean.
You can see that empire military, the empire military thinking, like the British Empire or the Chinese Empire or the American Empire, and even the Russian Empire when it was behaving like an empire, it has effectively infinite resources and can just, like a herd of elephants, crush everything in the way by just weight of numbers. But where you see real innovation is in countries that are trying to defend themselves. They don't have a 1,000,000-man army. They've got to come at this in a way that really attacks the problem and shuts them down, and that requires novel thinking, and it's survival for the guys that are being attacked in that environment. You don't get much time to get it right, because if you get it wrong, you're dead and you've lost. So it's the survival mechanism, and AI doesn't have a driving need to survive. If it loses, it's still around, as it were. So,
well, look what's happened. Look what's happened. I think losses have been 8-1 in favour of Russia in Ukraine. That's the troop losses. I mean, the West has been pushing Ukraine into, by the 100,000 onto that battlefield, and they're just getting, annihilated, of course. Now it seems like the West doesn't care about how many Ukrainians get killed. They'll just give them another 60 billion, keep at it, boys, an AI certainly wouldn't have any kind of emotional response about killing numbers of people. I mean, of course, it's just trying to win. Now, what is winning? Winning is if there's 10 people left in USA and everywhere else in the world is dead. That's winning a nuclear war, or maybe 100 or 1,000. But that's what winning is. Keep the corrupt villains alive in their bunkers is winning. Everybody don't matter about anyone else. So so relying on any kind of AI is a massive mistake, because they are totally fallible. We know they're fallible. It depends what you program the thing with. It's a programmed unit. It can't go off and start designing how it can think more like a living, you know, a mature human being that's seen life and made decisions and hopefully has learned something on a more spiritual scale than keeping criminals in power, you know. So I don't think it's hooking into these systems, though. You see, it's everyone's getting hooked in a little bit. Already, Google's got a profile on you as a person, on every one of us as a person. They think they understand how we think. If they could only translate our words into thoughts, which they can't. But it can give certain people a good pointer as to what political persuasion you might be, for example. You know, that's it is being weaponized. It's being weaponized against people. You know, we're being forced to hook into it like these identification devices that they want us to carry around with all our pertinent information and medical information contained on it. And secure,
I'd like to reiterate to people that regardless of whether or not the intellect itself can theoretically touch us, I mean, my research indicates yes. What's happened to me and what I've documented and timestamped indicates yes. That there is an active interest of whatever, I don't know if it's quantum processor or whatever it is, but it could just be also agencies and their interest, because they are cataloging everybody and they have been for many, many years. Nothing new about that. Nothing new about generative AI. They've been doing that for many years, and it absolutely is providing advantage. It is actually affecting people now, whether or not they acknowledge it or want to acknowledge it or accept it. It's here. It's here to stay. One of the things that my brain went off on a rant this morning. I don't know if you guys remember, but on this stupid legal document that my ex-wife created, she actually had the audacity to put that I thought artificial intelligence was influencing my mind. When she was conflating two different conversations. The first one was that the AI was doing predictive analytics to look and see what I was about to type. And if you guys remember, I had wrote ARE space ARM, and it just guessed the rest. Our Army Rangers Special Forces ? Which was exactly what I was thinking. And I had been watching Lone Survivor, and I was alone, and I wasn't talking to anybody when I said it, when I was typing it. And then she was conflating that with my complaint that the algorithms that Facebook and TikTok and all these people use, the way that it reinforces people's echo chambers, that because husbands and wives, boyfriends and girlfriends, friends, family, they're all searching different things, they're all liking different things, it starts to pull them into more of the thing that they're interested in and further away from the fabric of everyone else. And so that she could just conflate these two things because she's totally ignorant about. And so my brain went on this rant about, well, I think one of us knows about AI and the other one's totally ignorant, you know. But it doesn't matter. The point is that people think that by sticking their head in the sand and calling out ollie auction free, that they can avoid this, and it's just not so. It's already a control mechanism that is currently happening. It is an active, ongoing control mechanism, and people need to understand it more than just a little bit. It's not like crypto where you could ignore it and it'd probably be okay. You really actually do need to become conversant with the artificial intelligence, because the people who run this world are going to use it to put the stomping boot on your face, and they want that boot to stomp forever. They don't want to ever let the pressure up. And I definitely think people should see, they should see Elysium, and they should see some of the dystopian movies, Logan's Run and Soylent Green. They should see these movies and understand that they didn't make these movies from nowhere. There's CIA projects, and the secret societies have been creating narratives, and part of their whole MO is actually putting out what they plan to do ahead of time. And then if you haven't stopped them, then it's your fault. And so it's very important for people to become conversant and aware of these technologies now. And I apologize that I missed the earlier reply from Nick, because I had to help the patients, and my clinic was 84 degrees Fahrenheit when I walked in, so I had to immediately start some cooling down in here. So, anyways, I don't know if you guys want a recap or just keep going. It's fine by me.
I was going to respond with one of the first AI movie that I've ever seen, which was the Forbin project, which was in early 1960s, which was basically something out of the Cold War. What you had is the Americans built this computer analyzing system inside a mountain, and then locked it up so it couldn't be blown away with a nuclear bomb. But the Russians did one as well. So you had these two AI systems that worked out that the other one existed, and then they started communicating to each other, and then they took control of the atomic weapons of the planet, and they said to the humans, well, we're in control of who's going to be involved in war, and you'll do what we require of you, and if you don't do it, we'll just start nuking cities. And because the humans have been fully disconnected from that loop, the humans had no choice. They said, the AI towards the end of the film says, I need Malta, evacuate Malta, get everybody off it, because I'm going to build my replacement there. And the humans are saying, no, they're human beings there, that's where they live. And it says, well, I've got a solution for that. Which was a case,
as it stands, our weapons, all the nuclear weapons, when it goes past a certain point, when we know that there are nukes flying, the system goes, it's out of human hands. Once the button's pressed, it's out of human hands. There's no human control left. All the system is automated, and all the weapons are targeted. The targets are updated per second, and off they go. There's no people involved in it anymore. That's it. So that's when we'll see how good the AIs are, I suppose.
Yeah, but the issue here is that when AI has got total control of those systems, then humans are dead, basically. And it wouldn't matter whether you're talking Terminator or Forbin project or any other variety of control system in that manner, is that if it decides human beings just too much effort and just gets rid of us, then that's the end of the show. And you don't have to go back very far. All you have to do is go back to Noah and the flood.
Well, the elites have already decided that too many of us. They've already made that decision. It's just how they can kill us is the point.
But if you go back into Jewish history, there was the time of the judges, and God was, telling the Israelites how they were supposed to behave, and they wanted a king, and God said, "Oh well, if you want to really make a mess of everything, it's your problem." Just unloaded it. So, if that statement is, a statement of truth and accuracy of history, then if God's given up on us, we've got a problem. So it's our own hubris. We are so paranoid that we'll destroy ourselves in this deluded view that we think we can defend ourselves against what the universe could do to us. If the sun burps at us the wrong way, we're finished. But, human beings, the people in control, think that they can tell the sun what it's going to do and don't understand the lesson of King Canute, where he got all these paraphernalia of the court, dragged them down to the ocean, sat himself in a chair, and the king says to the tide, don't, go back, to drive home the message to all the people in the court who thought that they can control the environment, that they have no control. So it's a delusion in human beings to think that they can manage things and solve the problem. And what we've seen is the shuttle disasters and other things where technology's gone wrong, because some human being thinks it's never going to be a problem. It's technological arrogance on the part of the people.
Well, but also, though, you can't not do things. And I think we shouldn't be really afraid of AI. I think that was the wrong approach. It's sort of like a chainsaw. I had an uncle who actually a chainsaw bucked and cut him through the shoulder, and he nearly lost the whole arm, right? But you don't stop using chainsaws because that occasionally happens. And you don't stop using cars because of drunk drivers. You don't stop flying to the moon because something explodes. What you do is you get better. And that's just what we have. The whole point of spacers is that we have to mature. And one day, you know, the spacer economy being that's assuming humans make it, the spacer economy being what it is, there'll be timestamps to all these things. And if a city state violates another city state's rights, there'll probably be reprisals. But at least the AI could say, hey, this reprisal is happening because this is what happened and when it happened. And humanity will we'll never make it to Jupiter without maturity, let alone Saturn and beyond. And we're just not mature right now. We're very under mature. I mean, we have a current U.S. president, supposedly leader of the free world, who's crapping himself on TV. He has a body double because he has Alzheimer's. He's a puppet of somebody else or some other people, and they rigged an election. That's not mature. It's actually pretty immature. And of course, you know, Trump is an immature solution to an immature problem. So we've got a long ways to go as a species. And my concern is using these systems in a way that acts like in the movie WALL-E, where it's like a big crutch, you know, for the worst, laziest, most vapid, vain parts of humanity. You know, like the way we're behaving is so inwardly selfish. The systems don't have to be designed that way. That is the result of the symbolics, right? Structureless, meaningless, interruptive, materialistic. We can design better and better whimsical systems if we want to. And now EPMC has provided the philosophy for that. While Musk can talk about it, we've actually gone and done it. And people just have to step forward. Now, if we're not going to do it, at least the AI will be smart enough to learn those ideas. And who knows, it might be important in 100 or 500 or 1,000 years.
I agree with you, Ramon. I agree with you that, Ramon. I mean, these AI that can provide expert systems are fantastic if they're used correctly. I mean, for example, looking at medical slides, you know, you can pay one of a top specialist £120,000 a year to look at maybe 500,000 rotten slides in a year and decide which cells are cancerous, which aren't. Because you can get an AI to do that and diagnose the pictures. You know what I mean? So if you can hook a load of these up together, you've got a really good diagnostic doctor, which we don't seem to have in this country at the moment. I'm saying, yes, we can hook up and we can hook up those AIs to other AIs which perform good social interaction and a good outcome for the patient. But it's not what our medical thing does these days. All our medical system does is serves to get customers for the biopharmaceutical companies, the biomedical companies. You know, it's not human based anymore. The systems we've got have got to be completely turned over so they fit for purpose again, because they've all been politicized. And AI, using AI correctly, which has been programmed and tested and then hooked up together in a plausible model, which is open source, is a very good idea. That is the way to solve a lot of the world's problems. I agree.
My uncle, namesake uncle, he developed a cell detection scanning system. Would have been early 1990s, and the device was basically looking for cancerous cells as a screening mechanism, and it was, you know, it did exactly the sort of things that an AI could do, just looking at cells. But I became aware of the effort of the people who tried to steal the technology, and it was given to me by an accountant who described what was going on, and he didn't know that I was personally related to the person they were trying to steal the technology from. And I got no doubt that the technology has been transferred. You know, the pharmaceutical company some pharmaceutical company out there has the ability to scan people's blood and detect cancers instantly, as it were. But it's not the profit motive thing for the sycophants and of psychos who are in control of those companies, and their only goal is to make lots of money for their personal use. They don't care about whether any treatment or drug that they produce is actually going to heal people. That's the very last thing on their mind. What they want to do is continue is the sickness system, where people have to continually buy their product, their poisons, to remain sick. And that's what's happening. That's the issue with pharmaceuticals. And the people in control of these companies are lobbying government to ensure that their gravy train continues. And what happened in 2020-21 is just public money being put into the profit line of the people who made a disease and lied about it all the way down the track. And Fauci should be put in front of a firing squad and executed, because the disease that got out of control was started by him, and it wasn't just that one. He was responsible for others, and whoever told him and ordered him to do it needs to be found out. But they're not going to find out, because Fauci knows that if he spills the beans, everybody he is related to will be dead, and including himself, assuming that he was ever in contact with the people who wanted this stuff to be in place in the first place. So he's just a puppet, an expendable pawn that can be got rid of when his service is service is no longer required, and he's now no longer in charge of the CDC. He was in charge of it for 48 years or 38 years. So, you know, what did that guy do to damage the health of the United States and the planet in general? You know, it's just crazy thinking going on here. And we need to get these people out of their positions of power. But, you know, nature itself will just obliterate us. You know, these people who think they're going to be in control are just going to end up dead, because what they're trying to achieve is that destructive that they'll kill themselves.
So what we've got then is really, its issue would be that it's not truly universal in the way that what we would call true living things are. And also it has the fallacies that we've developed within ourselves over time of greed, money, power. And really the argument that's being ran at the moment about whether it's potentially dangerous to humans or not in the future, at this time could really be argued that it's the people behind the different versions of it pushing their position, not necessarily the position of the technology and its purposes that it can be used for to create potentially a better world for humans. Would that be a fair comment?
Well, it's costing a lot of money, and the only people who have the money are the people who want to control people's lives. So it's going to fulfill that purpose.
Well, I think people like Rupert Murdoch will be using it for nefarious purposes, because it controls a big swath of the world news, which doesn't give the population any information at all, or gives it false information. And I think he's soon going to be using these AI to generate photographs and put them in his newspapers and on his or videos and put them on his TV programs and present them as facts to people. And you won't have any need of journalism. I think that's his aim. Of course, he's a Nazi, so that's what they do, things like that. But yeah, I think in another world, an AI put together by professional associations to the betterment of the planet. Highly vetted AIs trained on highly vetted data that isn't corrupt and performs written into it a pro-human, the Hippocratic Oath, for example. Now, what doctors use any Hippocratic Oath anymore? A significant portion of them ignore it completely. I mean, you could program an AI to observe that, the Hippocratic Oath. So I think it will have I think it will have a part to play, and also an AI that could decipher the legal system and speak legalese would be quite good. It'd save you having to pay lawyers thousands of quid to fuck your life up. So yeah, I can foresee that there could be good facilities, but they're only used for control purposes and making money at the end of the day. So that's the problem.
So we get Back to the Future. We get Back to the Future second film where it says all lawyers in the future have been, declared illegal.
Yeah.
So you might as well go down. The political parties need to be completely obliterated. You're not allowed to form a conspiracy to control government. And what's a political party? It's a conspiracy to control government. So that's pretty much illegal in all the democracies or those that have a constitution that talks about it, including China and Russia. You have institutions in there that are about corrupting the rules. So it's hardly a surprise we've got problems.
Yeah, two-party state was the solution. That should please the people. Give them the false impression that they've got some element of control in the way that society's being run. But of course, It's two cheeks to the same arsehole. Always, we always wind up in a worse position and taxed more and more immigrants here. That's it. So yeah. Come the revolution, who knows? If people can take back control, I don't think we ever will be able to now because, people are too institutionalized. If they're successful, they've had a 9-to-5 job normally most of their life. They've learnt not to ask questions. They're successful people. They drive a Mercedes. They've got a pension. But they never wanted to change the world. All they wanted to do was bring up a family. So it proliferates the old shit because people go with the flow when the flow's taking humanity down the toilet.
Well, all we need is the loss of electricity globally and survival becomes the rule and all the arseholes will go. There's no ins or outs. A lot of people are going to die if the dreaded CME happens that wipes out electrical.
Well, I don't think we even have to go that far. I think it's a psychological thing when you come to people and the amount of people. I think psychologically that's being done at the moment anyway. It's just a matter of and 100 years really isn't long, and when we go back through even the last 2,000 or supposedly the last 2,000 years of history, we've seen that on numerous occasions. So I think on a lot of that, those people, so the people's psychics now is, in our own selves. Well, there's too many of us, and it's just going to drop right back. And then, yeah, a lot of the and that, well, they could become extinct. Not so much the people, because all of a sudden the people that were behind it all, there's no longer the interest in it. If you understand where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah, that'd be a good scenario. Yeah, the top gets skimmed off. You know, the fatty layer gets skimmed off. Yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, and your population isn't big enough to have the time to put the energy into those things. So then they just die off.
Our planet has abundant resources, and they're not being used. They're being crippled on purpose by these people at the top. Bill Gates is doing all sorts of attack on the food industry, all sorts of attacks on the food industry, whilst he's dimming the sun and getting people to eat insects and God knows what other horrible schemes are in the guy's head. But I suppose if you to look at all his friends, all those people who are on Epstein Island, they're all the same kind of people.
Yeah.
They're all in massive positions of seniority. And money. So it's those people who it's those demonic people who are controlling these AIs, unfortunately.
And we know now everywhere that they're collecting data to create psychological profiles and all that. Yes, and they're trying to use some. That's true.
Blackmail opportunities.
And they're trying to use some of it to create this new level of intelligence in electronic devices. But, I think too, people's psyche can change relatively quickly just due to the changes of the environment that they may find themselves in. So on that, yeah, I would agree. If we've got stuff automated and it gets to the point whereby, it's like the button's being pushed and it's automated, it's all going off, well, it's not only the end of us, it's the end of all that too, isn't it? Really, realistic, unless it can reproduce itself and the energies that it requires to survive, which I think is a long way away. Because I don't even think we're sure how we do it for ourselves. So I don't know how we could teach something else to really do it.
Agreed.
Yeah, so on that, fellas, I think I might check out and I'll catch up with you later on.
That interesting discussion. We finally got. We started off slow and warmed up pretty fast there. Good chat, man. Yeah. Have a good evening, you chaps.
No worries. Catch you, Nick. Catch you, Rob. See you, Ramon.
See you, Andrew. So the question is will AI